Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Anthony from Borne Off-Road, and today I'm going to show you how to use our winch to get yourself unstuck using a tree as your anchor point. Before we get started, remember that winching can be extremely dangerous, so before you start any winching operation, make sure you're familiar with how your winch works and how to use proper safety techniques when you're recovering your vehicle. So before you try to get yourself unstuck, you have to figure out how stuck you actually are. So the first step in that is knowing your vehicle's weight. So to find out how much your vehicle weighs, you can check the sticker on the inside of your door jamb, and that'll tell you your gross vehicle weight. But keep in mind, that's for a stock vehicle. So if you have modifications to your vehicle, like larger tires or aftermarket bumpers or armor, that's gonna add to that weight rating. So make sure you take them into account as well. Okay, so now that you know about how much your vehicle weighs, to estimate how much it's gonna take to pull your vehicle out, you're gonna have to look at how deep you are in whatever you're stuck in. So if you're stuck in mud and the mud is up to the bottom of your tire, that'll be about the 1 times your vehicle weight is going to be what's needed to pull you out. If you're up to the middle of your tire, that's going to be about twice your vehicle weight. And if the mud's all the way up to the body of your vehicle, that's going to be about 3 times the weight of your vehicle. That's going to be the force that your winch needs to get to pull you out of where you're stuck. Now that's for a vehicle that's not damaged and rolling. So if you have damage to your vehicle, and especially if your tires aren't going to be allowed to roll, that's going to add to that weight as well. If you're on an incline, that's also going to add to the weight. So make sure you keep all these things in mind when you're trying to estimate how much it's going to take to pull your vehicle out. All right, so now I'm going to go over how to set up this recovery. So the first thing to do once you know you're stuck, make sure your vehicle's not going to go anywhere. So engage your parking brake or put your transmission in park, and make sure that when you get out, your vehicle's not going to roll or move anywhere. Okay, so for this recovery, we're going to be using a tree as our anchor point. So the first thing you want to do is find a tree that's going to be strong enough to support the vehicle coming out. So you want to look for a tree that has a big diameter. You want to make sure it's a live, healthy tree. You don't want to use a dead tree, as you could knock that over or pull it down. This tree would be a little small. So what we're going to do is use this tree over here. It's pretty much in line with the vehicle, which is what you want. You don't want anything way off to the side. You want to try and stay in front of the vehicle as much as possible. So that'll be a good tree that we can use for this recovery. All right, so when you're recovering yourself using a tree as your anchor point, always make sure you use a tree saver. Never wrap your winch line around the tree and hook it back to itself. That can damage the tree and it can snap your winch line. So make sure you always put a tree saver around, and that'll protect the tree, and it'll make sure you don't break your winch line. So when you wrap the tree saver around the tree, you want to make sure you keep it as low to the base of the tree as possible. So just loop it around like that, and then you'll have these loops here to hook your winch line to. All right, so the next step is gonna be, we're gonna pull the winch line out to the tree saver we just set up. So in order to do that, you gotta switch your winch to free spool. So you just take the clutch handle, pull it over to free spool, and that'll allow you to grab your line and just pull it out of the winch. Okay, so now when you connect your hook to the tree saver, you always want to connect it with the hook facing up. So you want to loop these tree saver straps in like this. And by making sure the hook is facing up, you have to always keep safety in mind when winching. So if anything does go wrong with this orientation, if this hook breaks, it'll force the hook down into the ground. If it was the other way around, it would send the hook flying up back towards you. All right, so now that you have your winch line pulled out to your anchor point and attached to your tree saver, there's a couple things you want to check before you start winching. The first is you always have to have a minimum of 10 wraps of the rope on your winch drum. There's a black sleeve at the end of the rope that'll tell you once you've got down to that, but you want to make sure that you have at least that much rope on your drum. The second thing is the pulling power of the winch decreases as additional layers of the rope go onto the winch drum. So when you were calculating about how much weight your vehicle was and how stuck you were, if that number is over what your winch can pull at this rate, you need to either find a different anchor point or set up a different rigging technique to lower the amount of weight that is going to be put on your winch. All right, so the next step is we're going to put a line damper on our winch line. The purpose of this is if something goes wrong and your winch line snaps, this damper will just drop to the ground and take the line with it, and that'll prevent the line from whipping around and injuring anyone. All right, so we're gonna place our line damper somewhere in the center of our line. So we'll just open this up, put the winch line inside, and close that back down. All right, so now that we have our recovery set up, we're going to take the slack out of the line. So in order to do that, we need to engage the clutch on the winch again. So just turn the handle back, and then we'll go grab our remote and reel in the slack. All right, so now you're going to grab your remote, turn it on, and we'll use that to just take out the slack in the line. So just slowly pull this in. All right, so now that we took the slack out of the line, we're just gonna double check all our connections and make sure everything's secure and nothing's blocking our pull. So we'll check our hook, just make sure that this is completely latched, and we look good there. So now we're ready to recover our vehicle. All right, so now before you start your recovery, the first thing you wanna do is turn on your vehicle so you don't drain the battery while you're winching. So you can go ahead and turn your vehicle on. Now, if your vehicle is damaged, you wanna make sure the transmission's in neutral. If it's not damaged, you can lightly drive forward to help the vehicle along, but you want to make sure you're not having any shock loads. So if slack forms in the line, you want to make sure you slowly take in that slack and you're not jerking the vehicle. So now you can, with your foot on the brake, you can take your parking brake off and put it into neutral or drive. And now you can use your winch remote to slowly pull yourself out of your stuck situation. So turn your remote on, let your foot off the brake, and just slowly winch yourself out. Okay, so now you can stop winching once you get your vehicle into a location where it's stable and no longer stuck. You can apply your parking brake or put your transmission in park. And now, once you know your vehicle's stable, now you can exit the vehicle. All right, so now that you've recovered your vehicle, the next thing we can do is we can release the tension from the line and take off our line damper. And then that'll allow us to go unhook it from the tree. So you can just turn your remote on and let out a little bit of your line. And then we'll take off our line damper, and then we'll go unhook our hook. All right, so now you're ready to reel your line back into the winch. So when you're doing that, you want to make sure that your line is spooling up onto the winch drum in nice even layers. Make sure that it's not all spooling up into one side of the winch. You want it to stay on there nice and even and go back and forth in even layers. When you're spooling your line back in, you never want to hold the hook by itself. Hold on to this tether that's on the hook and make sure you never get your hands anywhere near the fair lead when you're spooling this in. All right, so now that you've made it all the way back to the vehicle, when you get to the last little section of your rope, just slowly bring that in. And again, making sure you keep your hands away from the hook and the fair lead so you don't pinch yourself in between them. All right, so we recommend cleaning your rope after every recovery. If any dirt or debris got into your rope during the recovery, it could wear down your rope. It could also cause it to break the next time you use it. So make sure that you properly clean it. Also make sure that the rope is properly tensioned and evenly spooled onto your winch drum every time that you spool it up. Every time you use your winch, make sure you're following all the proper safety precautions. You can check your owner's manual for specifics and more details about everything we talked about here today. All right, so that wraps up how to use your Borne Off-Road Winch to recover your vehicle using a tree as an anchor point. If you're interested in this winch or any of our other products, you can check out borne.com. Thanks for watching and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all our future videos.